Hey guys, before we continue, I found that 67% of you who watch these videos are not subscribed. Click that subscribe button to support truth and click the like button to keep these videos circulated within the YouTube algorithm. Thank you for supporting truth. Let's get back to it.
Let me know how much it costs so we can go ahead and get to the sex. Let me know how much it costs so we can go ahead and get to the sex.
Let me know how much it costs so we can go ahead and get to the sex. The late Kevin Samuels, the overrated Godfather of Omissions, summed up the purpose of his doctrine in one sentence. Male and female relationships was like a game on the chessboard that leads to an exchange of sex for money. In this critical analysis, I will break down the missing pieces on the chessboard in my critique of the Kevin Samuels playbook, exhibiting exactly why he was the overrated Godfather of Omissions. First, we will hear Mr. Samuels list his criteria for a high-value man, and I will tell you whether each point is omission or a bold-faced lie from Kevin Samuels. Let's continue.
Basic economic principle states that the value of something is what a market is willing to pay for it. The value is determined by what? The market. And when we're talking about individuals, the market is other people, men or women. So a high value man is completely determined by the market. Case in point, you can have a vehicle, a home, anything in your possession. You can hold it dear. It could be supremely important to you. But when you put it on the market decides. And there's an upper limit and a lower limit. It doesn't really matter if you think the low is too low or the high is not high enough. That's what the market is willing to pay for it, and that is its overall value.
Now, on the surface level, it may seem as though there is some merit to what Kevin Samuels said. However, you cannot compare the market value of homes and automobiles to that of human beings. For example, anyone can purchase a home or automobile if they have enough money and good credit. Okay, but this is not the case for human beings who have consecrated themselves from the rest of the world. Okay, a blood-bought, born-again believer in Jesus Christ, who is a woman, for example, will never agree to marry a so-called high-value man, according to the doctrine of Kevin Samuels, no matter how much money he makes. And neither will a man marry an unbelieving woman. Why? Because 2 Corinthians chapter 6, 14 through 16 says, "Do not be unequally yoked together with unbelievers. For what fellowship has righteousness with lawlessness? And what communion has light with darkness? And what accord has Christ with Belial? Or what part has a believer with an unbeliever? And what agreement has the temple of God with idols?" Okay, 2 Corinthians 6:17 continues, saying, "Come out from among them, and be ye separate, says the Lord. Do not touch what is unclean, and I will receive you." So his framework for male-female relationships is of a fraudulent foundation based on unrighteous mammon and not the laws of God.
That has been with us forever. So when we start talking about that, we're dealing with people. It really throws people off because it seems so cold, so calculated. But like it or not, that's the way the world is. So let's get into this whole high value man thing. Number one, in order to be a high value man, it starts with money. Again, like it or not, I didn't put the six-figure thing out there. It's been with us since the mid 80s. And like it or not, that's where this whole thing starts.
Now, he said this whole high value man concept has been around since the mid 80s. Well, what does the scripture say about this? Okay, Romans chapter 1 verse 30 says they are inventors of evil things. Okay, who invented the evil things? Esau, the so-called white man, the Confederacy, who made concessions with the states to surrender the practice of slavery in the mid 1860s, which was succeeded by a series of nationwide money panics in the late 1800s and early 1900s, which introduced the Federal Reserve Bank in 1914. Okay, that's what you call the reinvention of slavery. Okay, once upon a time, it was simple. Negroes worked on the plantation, and so-called white landowners ran the plantations. Okay, their monies were nowhere near heavily invested in banks as they are today. Okay, after the Civil War forced them to make concessions, they were forced to give up their slave capital, and it would take years for them to reinvent slavery. Okay, fast forward to the 1980s. Esau had already instituted systemic exploitation to ensnare the so-called black man in his traps, according to his crafty counsel. Okay, the prisons were populated mostly with black men because the heathens facilitated drugs into impoverished communities, established feminist safe havens in corporate America, gave incentives through government subsidies for black women to divorce their husbands, and next thing you know, he done reinvented this brand new economy. A new world order where black men have to sell their soul, take the oath, make covenants with secret societies, and then go back to their own people to put on a facade. Okay, Esau needed rich Negroes because this new economy will collapse at the first hint that masses of people cut back on spending. Okay, and black folks spend more money than any race of people. It's what allows the Bank of England to continue printing money out of thin air, and the people become debt slaves to the system they collectively uphold. Okay, but somewhere in the middle is the matrix where patrons like this Negro, Kevin Samuels, presents a false doctrine infested with omissions. Okay, basically, from a biblical perspective, there are two ways that men inherit riches. They do so because the root of the tree is corrupted, therefore their riches are corrupted because everything stems back to the transatlantic slave trade pertaining to this new world order. Okay, the other way men inherit riches is if the Most High himself gives it to them. Okay, this was the case with the Israelites in Deuteronomy chapter 8 when God reminded the Israelites, black Negroes, that he delivered them out of Egypt, the land of bondage, and they should remember this, lest they become full and their gold, their silver, their houses, and all their wealth multiplies, and they forget the laws concerning the poor, written also in Deuteronomy chapter 15. Okay, so of course Israel broke the covenant, and to this day, the rich Negroes have become rich through the corrupt system of white supremacy because they have yet to pay back what they owe. Okay, and even if they did pay reparations, their economy would collapse because of hyperinflation. Okay, their economy is like a pyramid. It's an outstanding sin debt, which according to the good book, can only be paid back in blood. Okay, their descendants can't even pay back such an insurmountable debt in their lifetime because the scriptures state that there is no ransom that may be paid for defiling another man's wife. Okay, it must be paid in blood. It's written in the scriptures.
You can't be high value and homeless, so you have to make a certain amount of money, and the line is roughly at $10,000 a month adjusted for Atlanta dollars. If you live in San Francisco, LA, New York City, where the cost of living is higher than 100%, you need to adjust it. So $10,000 a month gets the starting point off for high value. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm just giving you what the world gave me.
Again, Kevin Samuels, the Godfather of Omissions, he said he's just giving you what the world gave him. Well, the scriptures say in 1 John 2:15 through 17, do not love the world or the things in the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life, is not of the Father, but is of the world. and the world is passing away, and the lust of it. But he who does the will of God abides forever. Okay, now earlier I addressed the roots of corrupt riches and how white supremacists used it to reinvent slavery. Okay, so an astute person who doesn't take everything they see at face value would retrace the origins of the blood money and read Habakkuk chapter 2 verse 12, which says, "Woe to those who builds a town on bloodshed and establishes a city by iniquity." Okay, the blood money is corrupt riches, right? God always looks at the root of everything. So within a city that's established, you have universities, you have banks, you have all sorts of institutions where people are employed. Habakkuk chapter 2 verse 12 says, "Woe unto all of them, because everything was built on the blood money." You see what I'm saying? So within the parameters of any town or city, so-called professionals and experts will come forth and claim themselves to be wise, but they're fools living off the blood money, even if they have black skin. Okay, think of it like this. A thief who also committed murder decided to give away something that does not belong to him so he can reap the residuals. Okay, the person to whom it is owed should receive reparations in lump sum and refuse to tolerate the mental gymnastics, the schematics of these white supremacist think tanks who fraudulently championed themselves as civil rights advocates when all along they were carefully, methodically reinventing a new institution of slavery that not only yields incentives for black women to abort, divorce, and pursue child support, but also the reinvention of new niggas like the Kevin Samuels and Anton Daniels of the world. In Luke chapter 6:24, Christ understood this. That's why he commanded the rich young ruler to sell everything he owned and give it to the poor. Okay, Christ knew before his time that there would be millions of people dwelling in metropolitan cities who should never have been born, because they don't want to obey that commandment. Okay, and unfortunately, Kevin Samuels was one of those people. Okay, Kevin Samuels looked down on the poor. Okay, Proverbs chapter 21:13 says, "Whoever shuts his ears to the cry of the poor will also cry himself and not be heard." Okay, Luke 6:25 says, "Woe to those who laugh now, for you shall mourn and weep." Perhaps that's why Charles Barkley said he knows he's going to hell.
We up in the clouds.
We up in the clouds. Higher than that, brother.
56:45. We up in the clouds.
We up in the clouds. I could touch God right now. That's the only chance I'm ever gonna get to see him.
Oh, don't say that.
I'm going to hell.
Damn.
But I'm gonna see a lot of y'all with me.
Oh, no,
A lot of y'all laughing at home. I'm gonna see you.
Okay, some celebrities have read these scriptures and they know that their fate is sealed. That's why Drake said, "Laugh now and cry later." Again, the Most High warned rich Israelites in the book of Deuteronomy chapter 8 and Deuteronomy 15, as he warned the church in 1 Timothy chapter 6:17, where he said, "Charge them that are rich in this world, that they be not high-minded, nor trust in uncertain riches, but in the living God, who gives us richly all things to enjoy." And Kevin Samuels should know this because according to him, he used to be a part of the Christian church and he was over the singles ministry. So when addressing male and female relationships, we must observe these laws written in the scriptures and follow the money. Okay? Retrace the blood money and call this devil a liar.
Number two, that money needs to be made over a length of time, i.e. performance. And that's roughly about 5 years. And about the 3-year mark, you're kind of starting to scratch the surface. Why does it need to be 5 years? Well, because guys, it's a matter of consistency and stability. Look in the NFL, the NBA, anybody can have a great season, But having a great season does not automatically mean you're going to the Hall of Fame. They want to see consistent numbers over a period of time. You know how this works, just like I do in business. You can't be a one-hit wonder or have up here and down there. Consistency, performance over a length of time. That's why that 5-year mark is so important. Like I said, around 3 years, you're starting to scratch the surface, but at 5 years, people can pretty much count on you to say, this person understands and knows how to get it done. Number 3 is group acceptance. Like it or not, guys, High Value Man is like a fraternity. It's like a club, a secret society. And high value men know other high value men. They welcome him into the group. They know what it takes to be there. They know what it takes to get in there. And high value men, group acceptance is supremely important. Guys, secret societies, fraternities, organizations have always been with us.
Kevin Samuels mentioned secret societies, but he continued without an intrinsic perspective on the origins of secret societies. Okay, proving again why he was the godfather of omissions. Okay, we have already established that Esau reinvented slavery by instituting a new economy or a new world order where the way people make their money is through capitulating to his industrial complex and dismissing the so-called white man's outstanding sin debt. Okay, so what did he do? He was faced with economic collapse and the dismantling of the United States. So in this new world order, Esau recruited black men and women to join his fraternities and make covenants with his gods to sell their soul and become rich slaves to the system. Okay, the women to be whores for the system through the institution of feminism, fully understanding that corporate America, the government, and social media would be the husbands of the modern liberal woman in an institutionalized polyamorous relationship where the liberal black woman aborts, divorce, and pursue child support. Okay, why did Esau go through all this wickedness, completely restructuring the order of God concerning male-female relationships? Because the New World Order of slavery has its pitfalls. Okay, inflation obviously increases the cost of living, and in order to sustain the industrial complex, Esau had to create millions upon millions of jobs that even men could not work all by themselves while fulfilling the demands for an exorbitant degree of spending to fuel the economy. For example, the corn industry and Hollywood employs a multitude of women who, through their satanic employment, will contribute to mass spending to stimulate the economy. Okay, there are innumerable examples of employment that helps stimulate the economy, but is an abomination in the eyes of God and breaks the patriarchal structure of family. Okay, so the devil used Esau to steal an economy through the transatlantic slave trade. He never paid reparations that are owed, and through the reinvention of slavery, he is giving out jobs to whom he please, based on his bias, based on his philosophy and isms. Okay, and Negroes like Kevin Samuels emerged from these systemic exploits spearheaded by the so-called white man, and through the corrupt riches that men inherit from this new world order. That's how Kevin Samuels expressed his idea of what he calls a high value man. Okay, that's what you call adding sin to sin, according to Isaiah chapter 30, verses 1 through 3, where it says, "Woe to the rebellious children, says the Lord, who take counsel, but not of me, and who devise plans, but not of my spirit, that they may add sin to sin, who walk to go down to Egypt, and have not asked my advice, to strengthen themselves in the strength of Pharaoh, and to trust in the shadow of Egypt. Therefore, the strength of Pharaoh shall be your shame, and trust in the shadow of Egypt shall be your humiliation." Okay, and Kevin Samuels, as he said out of his own mouth, he trusted in the brotherhood, the Masonic brotherhood.
And the 6th part is probably my favorite part, guys. A high value man is useful to others and the group. A lot of times you hear people say, I don't want to be used. I don't want to be used. No, I want to be used. Why? Because that means I'm useful. High value men are in demand and useful. Their presence is felt when they're there and their absence is felt when they're gone. That is how you know you're really a high value man. How you can move things, your ability to influence things. And that is your relative usefulness. In economics, it's called utils. How useful are you to the group? Again, there's no high value homeless, neither are there any high value loners. If you have all these resources, all this stuff, but it's all hoarded for your own selfish ends and no one can benefit from your money, your network, or anything you have, how valuable are you to the group, to the world, to other people? That's what this comes down to. High value men are in demand and useful to other people. As I said at the beginning, high value is all the rage, all the buzz right now. I didn't make it, but I want to clarify what I mean when I'm talking about it. The 6 basic principles of being a high value man, and that by no means is the end of it. Each individual person, after that 6 basic things there, they maybe put other things on top of it. They may have religious concerns, personal motivations, but those 6 core things need to be there. Till the next time, your Godfather is out.
Now, when Kevin Samuels talks about a so-called high-value man being useful to the group, he's not referring to a rich man using his resources to help the poor. He's talking about rich men helping other rich men, or whatever that may mean. Okay, because I'm sure many of you have heard of the blood sacrifice. And you may have heard those who say some rich men were worth more dead than they were alive. Okay, he would go on to speak about LinkedIn networks and visibility. Well, LGBTQ plus have more money and networks than anybody. Okay, they're all over LinkedIn, right? He said nothing about them. Okay, again, Kevin Samuels, the overrated Godfather of Omissions. Okay, he called himself the Godfather and gave nothing but worldly wisdom. Okay, notice at the tail end of the video, he added religion and personal motivations to his talking point. Okay, based on sentiments that he expressed from his own mouth, it's fair to suggest that Kevin Samuels accepted the practice of all religions. Okay, that's what the fraternal order represents. Okay, the scriptures say, woe to you shepherds, you greedy dogs. Why? Because bishops, they partake in a fraternal order. Okay, and they must be blameless, sober, the husband of one wife, and apt to teach according to their duties to the Most High. Okay, because for if that bishop is unable to take care of his household, then how can he meet the needs of the church? So a bishop must then be a man of means because he got to homeschool the kids and use the proceeds from the church's finances to feed the poor. So on paper, perhaps he probably makes over $400,000 a year, probably more than that. But of course, God will give him grace to homeschool his kids, which can be very expensive. Okay, because a man of faith certainly will not send the kids to public schools where they teach them it's okay for men to lay with men. Okay, if it's within his power to do otherwise and homeschool the kids, then he'll do so as a bishop, according to what the scriptures state. Okay, and also a bishop must use his personal wealth to meet the needs of the church. All right, a shepherd literally feeds the flock. And in James chapter 2, it talked about how men are not to show partiality to the rich. So on paper, when he fills out his taxes, he makes over $1 million or over $500,000. But where's the money going to? You see what I'm saying? So now that we have an understanding of what Kevin Samuels considered a high value man, now we will listen carefully to what he described to be a high value woman.
Too soon because, oh my God. Oh my dang, what happened last week? But hope. Somebody asked, why is he sitting in the dark like a Sith Lord? Cuz you didn't know? I am.
Execute Order 66.
Yeah. I'm not a Sith Lord. I'm more like Mace Windu. I have mastered Vapad. Form 7, Vapod, light, dark. If you don't know what you're talking about, understand. Mace Windu up in here at your service. See, you got to be able to touch the dark side and walk the light path.
So Kevin Samuels admitted that he's a Sith Lord, a practitioner of black magic. Okay, meaning he meditates in darkness to channel demon spirits. He called himself Mace Windu, which is a character from the Star Wars series who was a Jedi Master. And we also heard Kevin Samuels play a soundbite of Order 66, which was executed against Mace Windu and the Jedi leaders in the Star Wars movie. Okay, he said you got to be able to touch the dark side and walk the light path, whatever that means. Okay, because most of his live streams were opened up in darkness because Kevin Samuels was a witch who allegedly lit candles and meditated in darkness before drinking Red Bull in preparation for his live streams. All right, earlier we heard him championing subordination to secret societies and being quote unquote useful to the group. Okay, the guy was just doing way too much. He was playing a deadly game with demons because in private, he's also being a burden to himself and testing the capacity of the human body because allegedly he also took the game ending shot. And I believe this was the final nail in the Kevin Samuels coffin because the drinking of Red Bull and the alleged taking of the game ending shot was a fate filling deadly combination. Okay, there are a host of people giving their lazy, meritless opinions that Kevin Samuels was eliminated for speaking truth, that he was lined up by some dudes on YouTube who couldn't eat while Kevin Samuels was alive. These are some poorly construed conspiracy theories from those who have not sat down to give serious thought to the matter at hand. Okay, Kevin Samuels came to prominence during the pandemic, and he was the type to always trust the so-called medical professionals who propagated the masses to take the game-ending shot. Okay, perhaps he was fully bought into the narrative that such a decision would protect him from catching the contagion. Okay, one might say, well, who's running Kevin Samuels' channel to this day? Okay, videos are still being uploaded. Well, that's where the Masonic Brotherhood comes in. Okay, allegedly, he made a covenant with the Masonic Order for him to have access to their world of celebrity, and he was introduced to celebrities like Cam Newton, Nicki Minaj, and Future. So he owed a debt to the Masonic Order. That's what he meant when he said, make yourself useful to the group. Okay, he was literally committed to touching the dark side to walk what he thought was the light path. Okay, that's why he's also seen in this photo on the Masonic black and white checkerboard. Okay, they believe in duality, the simultaneous manifestation and practice of good and evil. Okay, tapping into sources of light and darkness. All right, but no matter how Kevin Samuels passed, his sacrifice was to be paid in full after death. And allegedly, his Masonic brethren are running his channel to this day. Another thing I noticed is how much Kevin Samuels cherished this distinctive, headless household idol of some sort. Okay, this idol, the hand on this person or this mannequin is a high heel. All right, I just found that kind of odd because it's clearly visible in many of his streams. He carried it with him to different areas of his home, and if he was on the road, he carried it at other locations. Allegedly, he bowed down and worshiped this headless household idol. Okay, perhaps he considered it to be a good luck charm. I don't know. But when you look at him sitting in darkness and lighting candles and these household idols, the Masonic oath, talking about secret societies, okay, these were the rituals that Kevin Samuels practiced in order to stay tapped into that dark side. and the demons came to collect his soul when he died. All right. So now that we've established the framework exposing the evil spirit that Kevin Samuels was functioning out of before, during, and after his live stream interviews with women, we can see how easy it was for him to compromise and be at ease as the godfather of omissions. As the overrated godfather of omissions, Kevin Samuels taught men and women how to learn how to live with demons instead of avoiding the demon or perhaps getting rid of the demon altogether. Okay, that's why I say his message was overrated, because it was not biblically based. Okay, yes, he rebuked the women who conveyed selfish ambitions, but his solution to the problem was for so-called high-value, beautiful women to go to the highest bidder. Okay, so-called high-value men amongst top 5 to 10% earners to pay significant bills for these women who obviously would need to retire someday. Now, was Kevin Samuels much better than Stephen A. Smith, who cupcakes for the liberal feminist agenda, always apologizing to them and emphasizing that he grew up in a household with all women? Yes, but Stephen A. Smith makes way more money than Kevin Samuels. Okay, yes, Kevin Samuels was much better than him, yet still he was a lesser of two evils. Okay, and that's what most people struggle when they're watching these content creators. Okay, these people who come onto you putting on a facade. But even some of the things Kevin Samuels said, Stephen A is afraid to say, or else it could get him canceled or worse. Okay, Kevin Samuels, he made the mistake of taking the devil's money. One might say, well, what about these so called red pill channels that continue on his legacy? Listen, these are worthless hustlers who just play his entire video and say a few words. Okay, they're parasites and they provide no critique of Kevin Samuels and where he went wrong. For example, Kevin Samuels' message to women in a nutshell was stay with your baby daddy or your husband because you're either too old, where an average Joe could get you at 50% off compared to what you used to be because your sex market value has greatly depreciated, and so-called high-value men prefer not to deal with the woman who has given her best to another man. Okay, meaning he was her first that she laid down with, and or she had a baby with that man. So a so-called high-value man, according to Kevin Samuels, is worthy of a beautiful virgin or women who are rated 9s and 10s like Kelly Rowland. Okay, but the penalty for women who don't fit the correct criteria for a so-called high-value man is for them to either die alone and or end up broke. Okay, according to his doctrine, that is the greatest penalty that a woman can pay for forsaking her marital vows. That's not the worst thing that can happen to such a woman, and Kevin Samuels was wrong about what constitutes a high-value man. Okay, the worst thing that can happen is for that woman to die and go to the lake of fire for being an unrepentant adulterer. Okay, but see, Kevin Samuels learned a long time ago that being a hellfire teacher does not inspire women to give a lot of money. Okay, because his doctrine about women needing a man before retirement is a half truth, meaning it's an omission, because he fails to mention how women are more a part of this failing American economy more than ever before. Okay, the American economy is the most fraudulent, unstable economy in the history of hegemonic kingdoms since God created the earth. Okay, the corn industry is a major part of the U.S. economy. If women were to stop playing a role in adult films alone, the entire economy would collapse. Okay, but this was not the case in the 1970s. Okay, those things were brand new inventions at that time. Okay, talking about the television itself and the things that they show on the television. Okay, that's why, again, the scripture says you don't know what the morrow may bring. Is it a man's job to provide for his wife? Yes. However, There is a multitude of variables that may compromise a man's ability to make the money that Kevin Samuels considers to be on high value standards. Okay, often Kevin Samuels would play this game with women who had these high demands where he would tell them they are in the danger zone, they need to buy a dog and die alone, and then he'd end the interview by suggesting that they get some therapy, which of course is going to cost them more money. Okay, if they were to get it with Kevin Samuels, it would cost them a pretty penny by the hour. Okay, yet according to him, they will still die alone. So why do they need therapy? Okay, why do they need consulting and all these different things that he offered? Okay, because Kevin Samuels was a hustler. Okay, he was by no means a representative of the Most High.
See, you got to be able to touch the dark side and walk the light path.
I like to be educated, but I'm so frustrated. Hello to my loneliness. I guess that ignorance is bliss. Take me back to before I knew.
An incentive for the woman to submit to her husband is that she fears the Most High, who can destroy both the body and the soul in the lake of fire. Okay, but he didn't speak the truth because he knew the best way for him to make money was to present himself as a man who had access to other so-called high-value men who were his clients and that he knows what they want. Okay, he did admit that his brand was not a matchmaking service, but he conveyed an illusion that women could feel better about themselves after these counseling sessions. Okay, why was Kevin Samuels wrong about the definition of a high value man? Because he disregarded our God, who is a rich God of heaven and earth. Okay, but all men must die, including Kevin Samuels. And a lot of the times men have a form of godliness, but they will by no means inherit the kingdom of God. Okay, and Kevin Samuels, he died well before his time, which contradicted his message. Okay, it's appointed unto men once to die and then the judgment. Okay, and those of us who dwell amongst the living, we ought to be harsher in criticism of the dead more than the living. Why? Because the dead have already lived their lives. Okay, there's no coming back to correct some of their mistakes or retract some of the statements they made when they were alive. Okay, but those among the living on this earth venerate the dead, especially if the deceased are celebrities, and they are quick to criticize the living, especially when they are presented the unadulterated truth from the scriptures. Okay, and that's a backwards mentality. Okay, only fans do that. Okay, they fans of these dead men. Okay, they're idolaters. All right. The legacy that Kevin Samuels left exalted the man above the creator. And what thus saith the Lord? So I am here to warn the living about the omissions excluded from the message Kevin Samuels presented. Okay, that way you don't make the same mistake believing and practicing what he represented. Okay. So Kevin Samuels, the Godfather, the overrated Godfather of Omissions, is a rigorous analysis of his doctrine and blueprint for male-female relationships. Okay, the so-called high-value men that Kevin Samuels claimed to retain as consulting clients are not considered high-value men according to biblical standards. As a matter of fact, Kevin Samuels' message to women is not centered around a hellfire doctrine, but rather is concentrated on women dying alone once they eclipse the proverbial danger zone. Okay, but this is a surface level understanding at best and is a bit of misdirection on the part of Kevin Samuels. All right, so let's go down the list of what exactly the Kevin Samuels playbook is. Okay, number one, He is on record stating that women ages 27 to 35 are in the danger zone because they're at high risk pregnancy. Also, they hit the wall after having fun during the years prior to when they were serious about marriage. Okay, he talks about college educated and or working independent career women are over 30, attractive, but still they're single. Okay, the more money a woman makes, the more degrees, the more difficult it becomes to find a man on her level. Now, Kevin Samuels did teach against the American dream of the power couple. Okay, he didn't believe in power couples. He believed in a woman submitting to a man to a degree. Okay, because he say these women tend to be masculine, have a need to be right, and they're just too old to mold. Number two, again, he states that high value men are in the top 10% earners. He calls it the hit squad, Henry's in training. Okay, number three, he states that desirable women are fit, feminine, friendly, cooperative, and submissive. They haven't had any baggage or given any children to another man. Okay, and they're cooperative. Okay, number four, of course, as I stated earlier, he offered therapy for a price. Okay, so he was looking to close them at the end of this conversation, these interviews with these women. Number five, he's on record stating that low value women, they have signs. Okay, the acronym SIGN, shame, insults, guilt, and the need to be right. And number six, he states that the woman's sex market value is determined by something she is not given to another man, meaning children and a high body count. But again, he's on record stating that these women are still in the danger zone if they don't have these issues, if they're between the age of 27 to 35. And he ranked them on a scale of 1 to 10 and stated that they cannot use 7. He would ask them to rank themselves, okay, on their outward appearance. So, for example, if a woman is between the age of 27 to 35 and she's not married yet, but she's beautiful, Kevin Samuels would still claim that she's in a danger zone, even if she's never had children by another man and she doesn't have a high body count. Okay, because she's still going to be at high risk of pregnancy. Some of these things make sense, okay, but the doctrine that he taught and the solution violates Psalm 49:11, which states that their inner thought is that their houses will last forever. Okay, now is it only talking about houses? No, it's talking about cars and just the luxurious lifestyle that those who desire to be rich covet. Okay, because Kevin Samuels, he's asking these women questions that run 20 to 30 years into the future when you don't know what tomorrow may bring. Okay, and Kevin Samuels, unfortunately, he didn't know that his end was near. Okay, so a lot of these things that he was planning was contrary to his demise. This is why Matthew chapter 6, verse 19 through 21 says, "Do not lay up for yourselves treasure on earth, where moth and rust destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroys, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." And Kevin Samuels, he taught a store up treasures on earth doctrine. Okay, you don't know what will become of the economy in 30 years. The same way how prior to the second wave of feminism, women had no idea that 50 years later, they'd have the opportunity to join OnlyFans and make $1 million. Okay, women should pursue having a husband and submitting to a man who has submitted himself to God, regardless of how much money that man makes, because she ought to have a fear of the Lord. Okay, that's the moral thing to do, especially considering that the word of God says the earth is given into the hands of the wicked. Okay, even Kevin Samuels himself was a wicked man. He was a hireling. All right. So that woman, understanding that men do make the decision on marriage, Now her options are even shorter because that man can be incredibly rich, but he can be wicked and not serve the Most High. You see that? Okay. Now, when Kevin Samuels interviewed these two so-called career professional women in the danger zone, he did an attempt to close them on getting therapy. All right, first up was this 33-year-old Caucasian woman whose relationships never lasted beyond a year's time. All right off the bat, it's apparent that she's there to just use his platform to thirst trap. She has the look in her eyes of a seductress, which is typical of a modern, liberal, promiscuous woman. Okay, on a number of occasions, she can be seen making little kisses with her lips, most of the time when Kevin Samuels wasn't looking. Okay, meaning this is directed at his male audience. Okay, this may have thrown Kevin Samuels off a bit because he was clearly happy to see her the moment her face popped up on the screen. Okay, this is common. The duck lips, the constant pursing of the lips to set up the thirst trap. Because she does perverted things with her mouth. If she has never had a relationship go further than a year and she's 33 years old, then you do the math on what her body count could potentially look like. Alright, unless she had confessed that she was celibate for a series of years, which she didn't. Okay, she admitted that she prefers to date black men, but she has controlling problems, and that she struggled to admit. Okay, of course, Kevin Samuels asked her if she ever had therapy, and she claimed to have a life coach. Now, this is the type of woman Kevin Samuels would pursue to be one of his clients, but it is unclear whether or not he discerned that she was just there to get attention from men who watch his show, because women like this claim they desire to marry, but are really looking for excuses to ride the next man's penis, no matter if she has a boyfriend. Okay, but Kevin Samuels used this therapy as a hustle, just like a side job. Okay, he was already making tons of money just from his viewership on YouTube. Okay, now this 40-year-old black woman is an accountant and claims her husband left her. She admits to being easily annoyed by her partner the longer that she's with him, and she's willing to terminate the relationship the less that she's attracted to him. Okay, Kevin Samuels gives her some good worldly advice for her to look in the mirror at herself and see her own flaws. Okay, but he fails to warn her about fornication because she makes it clear that she's no longer interested in marriage. And because Kevin Samuels stuck to his own doctrine and not the word of God, you can see that he cast her off as a woman in a danger zone whom no man of means would ever marry. So if she's okay settling down in fornication, then he refused to warn her that she's on her way to the lake of fire. But how do women get married if there are so few men who have even adopted the faith in Jesus Christ? Then that woman also must realize that man will search for a believing wife, but his priority is also finding someone who is appealing to the flesh. Okay? For example, a woman in her late 40s will have an incredibly difficult time competing with women in their 20s for a righteous man of Yah. Now, is it better to marry than to burn with lust? Yes. But if she's serious about her faith in Jesus Christ, she will not by any means be unequally yoked with an unbelieving man, even if he got down on one knee, proposed to her, and makes $1 million per year. Why? Because the scriptures command the woman to submit to her husband, even if he's an unbeliever. Okay, she must make that decision to not be unequally yoked with him prior to saying I do. Otherwise, her being unequally yoked with an unbelieving man can lead to her forsaking her faith in Jesus Christ. But Kevin Samuels taught the opposite. He said a woman in her 40s, she has a high body count, and she has kids. She'd be lucky to get a man of means who makes $1 million and takes care of her and her children. This is wickedness, because how different is that from prostitution? And also the scriptures say otherwise. Now, it says Jeremiah 16, starting off at verse 1. The word of the Lord also came to me, saying, You shall not take a wife, or shall you have sons or daughters in this place. It's talking about Babylon. Okay, verse 3. For thus says the Lord concerning the sons and daughters who are born in this place, and concerning their mothers who bore them, and their fathers who begot them in this land. They shall die gruesome deaths. They shall not be lamented, nor shall they be buried, but they shall be like refuse on the face of the earth. They shall be consumed by the sword and by famine, and their corpses shall be meat for the birds of heaven and for the beasts of the earth. I've stated many times on this channel that God gave a series of commandments to men not to marry certain women, juxtaposed to men having children with unbelievers, and those children and their parents die and go to the lake of fire. Okay, because like father, like son, the father and the mother didn't raise the son or the daughter in the ways of the Lord. You see that? And God also warns Jeremiah of their fate on the earth, that they shall die gruesome deaths by the sword, by famine, and by pestilence. Okay, so God makes it clear throughout the book of Jeremiah that he's talking about Babylon during the life of Jeremiah, which is a prelude to Mystery Babylon, the mother of harlots, mentioned in Revelation. Okay, meaning the land is defiled here in America with harlotry. Okay, and it's referred to also as Babylon the Great. Revelation chapter 18, verse 1 through 3. It says at verse 1, After these things I saw another angel coming down from heaven, having great authority, and the earth was illuminated by his glory. And he cried mightily with a loud voice, saying, Babylon the Great is fallen, and has become a dwelling place of demons, a prison for every foul spirit, and a cage for every unclean and hated bird. Now, what is that talking about? That's talking about the soul ties. Okay, the demons possess the people through third-party soul ties. All right, the accumulation of demon spirits from laying with multiple people. Okay, verse 3. It says, For all the nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. The kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth have become rich through the abundance of her luxury. Now, Babylon the Great, aka Mystery Babylon, is the mother, meaning it's much worse than ancient Babylon that God warns Jeremiah not to take a wife from in Jeremiah chapter 16. Okay, now in Jeremiah chapter 10, God states that the Israelites, he will give their wives to others, and their fields will be inherited by foreigners. Okay, if you translate that to modern times, the women have been given over to the government, to social media, and to corporate America. Okay, that's whoredom. Paying a woman money to leave her husband. And the Most High understood in his infinite wisdom that the male Israelites would need tangibles and measurements to take care of their multiple wives. But they are going into the land of their captives due to their disobedience. So the Most High understanding that and still sending them into captivity is showing you that polygyny was done away with. And this is ever more the case to this day. Okay, what does this have to do with the omissions of Kevin Samuels? Well, let's listen to what he said to another woman he judged to be in the danger zone.
Loves what they do, fulfilling career. How many different times do I need to tell you? They don't care about that. They don't. And let me give you some examples. Here in Atlanta, I'm about to have a meeting with 30 black men, all who make $100,000 or more. I talk to men like this all the time. I have an attorney who found he's a $10 million attorney, met his wife in my group. And they don't lead with this. You are all about your job and your money, and they don't need that from you. Ma'am, I need you to understand, you don't know these men because you can't find them. So that means you don't know where they go, you don't know what they do, you don't know where they're at. You don't know what they want, and what you're saying is, I hope what I am is what they want because it's all I got. I got to bring to the market. So I'm coming to the restaurant and I want steak, and all you got is vegetables. I don't care how you season these vegetables, how you try to sell them to me. I want steak, and you're trying to make me a vegan, a vegetarian. They don't want that.
Okay, what do they want?
They want women who are cooperative, fit, feminine, friendly, cooperative, submissive, childless, easy to get along with. They want a woman who's there for them. You have to be split between arguably your career, the rest of your kids. So all you're going to have to offer a man who's at the top socioeconomically is part of your free time. Do you want to share? Do you mind? Do you want to share him? Are you okay with that?
No.
This exchange between Kevin Samuels and his woman is one of the most quintessential exhibits of how the devil craftily plays both sides of an argument. It starts with Kevin Samuels exposing how this woman clearly wants something for nothing, and she covets a so-called high-value man to be a simp and take care of her and her children the rest of her days. Okay, yes, this is wicked, but Kevin Samuels is also wicked because he presents to her a false image of what a high-value man is, claiming again that he has access to these men, whom one guy even met his wife in one of his groups. Okay, but let's continue.
So you want a top earner to accept a divorcee with 3 kids. He gets no children from you. And all he gets is the part of your free time for 100% of his monogamy. Does that sound like a fair deal?
Yes.
In fucking sane.
To someone, to that lucky one.
No. Buy a dog and die alone, because you keep talking about someone, and we already established we weren't going to do that. But see, that's your ego. We've already established you don't know men like this in the real world. You keep talking about that lucky one. Why do you have to believe that that person exists? Why is that so critical to you?
I just had this conversation with a friend. We were talking about soulmates, which I don't believe that there's a soulmate, but I believe that there could be multiple soulmates, and that there's somebody that matches with me, that complements me, and that I complement. There's somebody out there for me, and I just haven't.
Somebody out there for you, but does he have everything that you want and the income included? See, that's the problem. You ladies, so that's the point. And
he's not going to be perfect.
Stop. You have bought into the Disney Hallmark fantasy of one-itis. And the modern women are the only group of women. Come back into the light, please, man.
Hold on, my car just kind of turned off a little bit. Hold on. Okay.
The only group of women who believe they should be able to be non-traditional women, get traditional provider males, bring those traditional provider males another man's children, and that traditional provider male has to share you with 1, 2, 3 kids and a job. And what does he get for becoming the hell of a man that he is? Part of your free time? Absolutely not. And this is why I want, like, man, I talk to women like you every day. Okay? And what I'm trying to get you to understand is this is why you can't find these men. I said it at the beginning of this broadcast. Older women are too difficult. And this is what I mean by difficult. You don't accept new information. You don't accept new information. You just keep hammering on what it is, and it's because I honestly think it's because you know the truth is out there. I honestly think you ladies really know the truth, and it terrifies you, because you know that once your kids leave, you know who you are, and you know what your lifestyle is. You know who you are and what matches with that. And it looks like alone at the end.
I don't believe that. I believe God has that one for me. I really do.
Well, don't put my God into this, because you're not choosing a man based on godly character.
Kevin Samuels makes a great point, but even in doing so, he contradicts himself because earlier we heard him list his criteria for a high value man, and it had nothing to do with godly character. In fact, his criteria goes against godly character. Okay, the Masonic order comes first before a man's wife and children, and even he knows that. Okay, men are even obligated to put the fraternal order before their own religion. So, although he is correct that this woman is wicked and selfish and no man should take her seriously, this is one of those examples of him tapping both into the light and the dark side to shape his own narrative.
And God, and right now, there are 600,000 more black women at this level than black men. So God did what? Don't make God God didn't do this. And that really bothers me when I hear women put this off on God. God has never promised one woman to every man. How many wives did Solomon have?
Kevin Samuels makes it clear that he supports the practice of polygyny, but he doesn't apply the scriptures to support his argument. Okay, he mentions King Solomon, suggesting that women are not promised a husband exclusive to them in marriage because Solomon practiced polygyny. And this was a lazy, clumsy attempt for him to support polygyny, mentioning one of the patriarchs in the scriptures, but providing no scripture. Kevin Samuels, the overrated godfather of omissions.
Okay, if you're going to go to Old Testament and talk about what
How do you get 7 billion people on the planet with monogamy, man?
I'm just saying you can't use that argument.
I can use the argument that where in the world, any monetary system, any system of government, any continent, any time in history, have men in the top 10%, 3%, 5%, 1%, 0.1% been strictly monogamous? Where in history, on the planet?
That's the way it's supposed to be, and you know it.
It's not supposed to be that way.
Yeah, it is.
What's supposed to, no, I think it's funny, man. The women like yourself talk about supposed to be, and you're the biggest supposed to be. You're supposed to do your part. But just like Eve was rebellious, you are. That's the problem. It's not what men are supposed to be, it's what women are supposed to be.
He asked her, how do you get 7 billion people on the earth with monogamy? He's correct. Fornication with multiple partners is not monogamy, and it's not polygyny either. Okay, the Israelite populations that were produced through polygyny, those people died many centuries ago. Okay, the 7 billion people on this earth were not produced through polygyny. Okay, that's a bold-faced lie. Most people were born out of wedlock. Again, earlier I read from Jeremiah chapter 16 when God told Jeremiah not to take a wife in Babylon. Okay, Christ confirmed this in the New Testament when he said of Judas, "Woe to him by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It will be good for that man if he were never born." So, how many people among the 7 billion, or recently as of 2026, the world's population has grown to 8 billion, how many of them will not go to the lake of fire when they die? Okay, recently I did a poll and 51% of you said less than 3% of the 8 billion people on the earth, excluding babies and the mentally deficient, will not go to hell when they die. Less than 3%. The fact that God also commanded the Israelites not to marry the Canaanite, Moabite, and Ammonite women, and in the New Testament, he says, do not be unequally yoked with unbelievers. Well, that's billions upon billions of people, multi-billions even, okay, that should never have been born because God commanded it in his word. And you just have to search through these scriptures to see the results. But once they get here, talking about those billions of people, they're still obligated to keep his commandments or perish. It's a shame that this woman was correct about monogamy, but she doesn't know the scriptures. And Kevin Samuels took advantage of this, exalting his own doctrine above the law of God.
You know, him saying that it was the right path. It took a while for me to kind of just follow my instincts. Is probably the short way to put it.
So do you want to be a stay-at-home wife or do you want to work?
I like to be able to stay with my kids when they're young enough to avoid daycare, but I probably would always still be a realtor on the side and make money.
So you want to be a stay-at-home wife?
Temporarily, at least.
How many?
Maybe not permanently.
How many children do you want to have?
I'm going to be very realistic now. I'm an only child.
Now,
maybe 2, if I can get it.
Let me stop you right there. Have you had therapy?
No, I haven't had therapy.
You need it. You need it.
I have a degree.
No, you need it.
I'm down for
I'm an only child. I know of what I speak. That's why I'm sitting here listening to you. I'm like, there's something more going on in this.
I have that term, but I only know if that is like what, being spoiled, or
yes,
I don't know what
spoiled,
that means.
selfish, unrealistic. Spoiled, selfish, unrealistic, inability to play well with others, lack of ability to make or sustain lasting relationships, leaning towards narcissism, leaning towards the dark triad of personality traits. Yeah, we're fucked up.
I'll have to look into that.
I'm telling you.
But I will tell you actively, you know.
Here's the thing. It's not for sure. Being an only child, we grow up sooner than we have to. We tend to be more precocious, but we're very spoiled. Unless you do things early on, like early on in life, I started doing things outside of myself, volunteering and things like that.
In this particular exhibit, Kevin Samuels pushes hard for this woman to pursue therapy because, again, this was a side hustle for him. Okay, he was a witch and he didn't stand for the truth. Okay, yes, that makes him overrated. Okay, he didn't die for truth and no one took his life. All right, I'll get to that a little bit later. And there are several former athletes and celebrities who had issues with the jab shot. That's the dark path he chose to walk down. Okay, what does it good for a man to receive something in exchange for his soul, even if he gains the whole world? But let's pivot here and let's talk about several men that Kevin Samuels spoke to. So in this video titled, "Your Problems Aren't Big Enough," Kevin Samuels, a former cancer survivor who meditates in candlelit darkness, allegedly prays to Satan, and drink more than his share of Red Bulls, was teaching men to burden themselves with devil obligations. Okay, he suggested that men work 80 hours per week, and it's this mentality that led to his death. Okay, but let's listen to what he has to say.
Or anything in their apartment. Well, what are you going to do? Now you got problems. See, and the thing is, necessity is the mother of invention. Well, and the problem is with so many of you guys today is your problems aren't big enough. You know why? Let's just go ahead and get right down to it. Because a better man than you went out and made the company you work for. He went out and he put his balls on the line. He went out and got the equipment and the credit and all that other kind of stuff. He went out and got the building, the location. He went out and got the customers, the contracts, and all that stuff. And he made a place. And the last thing he did was want to hire you.
This is another omission because he takes no account of white supremacy and how J.P. Morgan Chase got his money. How did Andrew Carnegie get his money? Okay, this guy had that Willie Lynch syndrome. Okay, the better man makes more money. That's his mentality. Well, that means the so-called white man is better than every man. Okay, that's how dumb this guy sounds. Okay, that kind of wealth almost always is traced back to the blood money. Right? How do you think America got built?
So I said, your problems aren't big enough as an employee. Neither were mine. This is why guys have so much time today to dick around and talk about nothing. I'm not going to lie. I've heard more meaningless conversations in the last 2 weeks. And I'm sitting back. I'm like, you guys got too much time on your hands. You working 40 hours a week and you're able to put a roof over your head, plenty of food in your belly, clothes on your back. Your needs are met. But here's the problem. That's all that will happen. Your needs will only be met until you challenge yourself, until you get out of your comfort zone, until you put yourself out on an island, until you put yourself out on a boat on the ocean, until you get up out of that fucking city you're living in and move somewhere to where you have no safety net, none of that shit. Until you actually get out there and get in the world and start competing, you won't start finding out who you are. Your problems won't be big enough.
He mentioned competition, competing with others in the world. And again, he said your problems aren't big enough. Well, cancer is a problem. Taking the game-ending shot is a problem. Obviously, money can't solve those problems because rich folks who got some form of terminal illness die often. And the doctors would have kindly accepted their money if they could cure it and add at least 10 more years to their life. Sounds dumb, right? Some might say, well, Evan Samuels refused to go to the ER before he died. Perhaps they could have revived him. The point is, you don't know when you're going to check up out of here. You don't control your own fate. And Kevin Samuels is no longer here with us. And I don't believe that's by coincidence. God didn't put people on this earth to compete with others. You're here to love your neighbor as yourself and love the Lord with all your heart, soul, and strength. Okay, Kevin Samuels taught men to be covetous and overwork themselves until they're overwhelmed with devil obligations until they die. Okay, like he did.
And who do you work for? Don't have to get the name of the company. Is it a large company? Is it a small company? Fortune 500? Go ahead.
You require a security clearance.
Okay. So you're in tech.
Yes.
And how long have you been doing that?
15 years.
15 years. Why haven't you started your own security? Why haven't you started your own consulting firm if you got 15 years experience?
Basically, I've been dabbling. The goal is just to learn more. And each time I basically...
Let me stop you right there. I don't give a shit about how much more you learn if you don't make any money off of it.
Okay.
Listen to that devil. In so many words, he just told you mammon is his God. Continue.
Let me tell you why. Let me tell you why.
Okay.
Because it's the default position of so many guys to thinking that, okay, let me ask you, how much more do you need to learn before you can start your own business?
No, I don't need to learn anything. I've learned enough.
There you go. So the question is, you got 15 years experience. Are you working for a publicly held company or a privately held company?
Privately.
Privately. So it's owned by individuals.
Yeah.
Okay. And how old are the partners?
Probably in their 50s, 60s.
And how old are you?
I'm 35.
How old is the company?
Company's been there since the inception of the nuclear bomb.
So it's been around for 50 plus years? Huh?
Yeah, decades.
Right. And the principals and the CEO and the ivory tower people, they're only but 20 years older than you. But how did they get there?
They made a decision.
There you go. See, you're playing it safe. You got 15 years in the business. The first thing I ask you is, why haven't you started? And you told me I need to know more.
Don't get me wrong. I've learned a lot. I've learned how the process works. I learned everything.
Okay. Then why aren't you doing it for yourself?
I'm in the process of starting. I'm in the process of starting.
Okay. And what kind of clock have you put on it?
Basically, I've put a time of at least 2 to 3. No, let me give me 5 years.
5 years before you start your own business?
No, 5 years. No, I'm starting. I've already started. I've already basically started. So I'm giving a duration of 5 years to basically continue doing it while I work. At the same time.
So let me get this straight. You've given yourself 5 years to have it up and running to where you walk away from your existing job?
Yes, because I'm going to be doing it simultaneously.
Hold on. How long have you been doing the business?
Currently just a year right now.
Okay, so you've been doing it for a year.
Yep.
And you gave yourself 5 years.
Let's say 5 to 10 years.
No, you just said 5. Now you put it 10.
Okay, 5 years.
No. See, that's why when I asked you for a clock, I meant the real clock. Now you're making up stuff. Do you really have
hold on, of 5 to 10 years.
No, brother. 5 to 10 years are two very different things.
Okay.
Because the questions are only going to get harder.
Yeah, the questions would only get harder because Kevin Samuels was driven by covetousness to the point where he omitted the likelihood that this man's boss is probably a white supremacist. So this guy didn't have the starting capital that his boss had, even though his boss is 15 to 20 years older than him. In addition to that, Kevin Samuels was not under the directive of the Holy Spirit. That's why he didn't at least address any amount of time this guy should be spending consecrated with the Most High. Because anything less than that is devil obligations and covetousness. Okay, competing with others, looking at what other people got.
Okay.
So what I'm really asking is, are you really seriously in business? Because if you said, I gave myself 5 years to go away from my job to do it full time, and you've been doing it 1 year.
Yes.
How many clients have you acquired this year?
3.
3. How many clients do you need to have to be able to have this business have your walkaway money?
To be honest with you, I just need 5 clients.
You need 5 clients.
Yeah.
To have, and you've got 3.
Yeah.
These numbers don't add up. If you've got 3 clients in 1 year, why do you need 5 years? Let's start over. Do you have a business plan?
Yes.
Do you have a written business? No, do you have a written business plan?
Yes.
Who wrote it?
I basically hired a consultant, and we sat down and wrote the whole business plan.
How much did he charge you to write the business plan?
$2,000 basically.
Okay. And do you have a marketing plan?
Yes.
Do you have funding lined up for the business? Are you self-funding?
I'm self-funding.
All right. So what you're telling me is you're working for somebody else. You have a business plan and a marketing strategy. Yes. And in 1 year, you've got 3 clients. Are these 3 clients under contract?
Yes.
Okay. So, and you say all you need is 5 clients. So that's 2 more clients. So that means you should be able to walk away inside of 6 months, not 5 years.
That's true, yes. But remember, I'm still working with those 3 clients providing services.
I don't care. Hold on, brother. I'm just using your numbers. You said 5 clients.
Yeah.
If you've got 3 in a year, that means you could have 2 in 6 months.
Yeah.
Then you'd be at 5.
The Bible says, be anxious for nothing. Right? I talked about this in a live stream discussing the life of Kevin Samuels and Stephen Darby. Both men died before their time, although Stephen Darby was a righteous man. Okay, you need time to rest and study the scriptures because that's food for your salvation. That's food for your spirit. Okay, Kevin Samuels was drinking Red Bull even in the middle of this live stream. Okay, how many of them did he gulp down per day? Obviously, he's drinking them not because of the taste necessarily, but because he doesn't want to be sluggish or perhaps fall asleep during the live stream. Again, as a former cancer survivor, he was pushing his body to the limits. He even suggested that this guy lose sleep because these are the things that he was doing.
Yeah. Then you're walking away. Miss sleep.
True.
What are you talking about? You got to provide services. You have to do a whole hell of a lot more shit when you own your own business. See, that's why I said what I said initially. Better men or greater men than you took all the risk and made it real comfortable for you to think this slow. I'm pushing you into a position where you cannot move this slow. You have been doing this for 15 years. It does not require 15 years to go into consulting. It doesn't require 5 more years. I just proved with your own numbers. It only really takes you back. What's going on? I'm getting background noise or something.
Oh, I'm sorry. You good?
Yeah, I've already proved it with your own numbers. It should only take you a year and a half to get 5 clients. If you have a $2,000 a business plan and a marketing plan, and you got clients under contract, what you don't have is the confidence to really walk away.
True. Yes.
Then what's it going to take for you to get the confidence to believe to walk away?
Basically, the goal is again to make 10 times more than what I make in my current.
I don't care about 10 times more. You don't get to make 10 times more just starting out. You got to go struggle, eat Spam, rice, ramen noodles, saltine crackers, sardines, Vienna sausages. What the fuck are you talking about? You expect to go from a cushy job to a 10 times increase? Where'd I do that at?
For those out there on the grind to collect the bag, in the day of judgment, the Most High will simply measure up your work that you did for the man with the work that you did for his kingdom. Did you give to the poor? Did you support truth? Okay, and you cannot be exhausting yourself like Kevin Samuels advised and have time to serve the Most High. That's why, again, you never hear him address our godly obligations. He taught men to serve the devil just to be at peace with demons for a brief time on this earth.
Where does that happen? How many people walk away from a corporate job and walk into 10x?
That's what I'm saying. It takes time.
No, it doesn't. It does not take time. That does not happen. See, you're in another man's job. They have the power of life and death. Hire you or fire you. The house is burning. You're only getting older. You're only costing more money.
He said this man's employer have the power of life and death. Well, that's blasphemous. Only God has the power of life and death.
If you already have a business plan, a marketing plan, and 3 clients, you need to be really focusing on getting those other 5 and getting the fuck away from there and then doing what you got to do to turn that 5 into 20. What you're trying to do is you're trying to do it the slow, safe way, using their job to fund your growth. But aren't you a competitor to theirs?
Yeah.
Oh, bro, you right up on the microphone. Are you? Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I am.
Yeah, you're a competitor to theirs. So do you think they're going to allow you to really grow that much? Do they know you're working clients on the side?
No.
So you think you can actually wait? You want to grow at 10x, then walk away? That ain't going to happen. This doesn't. You see how I'm asking these simple, basic questions, and it doesn't even make sense to you?
No, it does.
So you're going to. So what's going to have to? So either you're going to be in business for yourself, or you're not. Either you're going to have to decide that I'm going to have to take a risk and walk away, or I'm going to just do dibble and dabble on the side. Because you're working in the same industry. That's a conflict of interest. Right?
Yeah.
If they found out you were doing consulting on the side, what would they say?
Basically, you can't do that and it's time to go.
So, again, you don't have 5 years to slow roll this.
From the recording date of that stream, Kevin Samuels didn't even have half of 5 years to repent and stop misleading people. Okay, I found this recording of him saying the same thing that Charles Barkley said.
Oh my God, I'm going to hell. Y'all gonna join me. I'm going to hell. Y'all gonna join me.
Oh, don't say that.
I'm going to hell.
Damn.
But I'm going to see a lot of
Sure
y'all with
is.
me.
Oh, no,
A
yeah.
lot of y'all laughing at home. I'm going to see you.
Obviously, all y'all motherfuckers going to hell. Right with me. So, let's get it.
I'm going to hell. Y'all gonna join me.
I do not believe Hortensia Alcantara, the woman whom Kevin Samuels was with before his death, she did not have anything to do with his death. Okay, Kevin Samuels just had way too much going on and his body couldn't take it anymore. Okay, in his final hours on earth, he was dealing with this woman and who knows what happened. Okay, Kevin Samuels Could have been drinking a series of Red Bull before his final live stream. Allegedly, he took the game-ending shot, and moments before it was time for him to penetrate Hortensia Alcantara, perhaps he took Viagra, and all of these things was way too much of a burden for his heart, keeping in mind that he was also a cancer survivor, which was the grace of God. That Hortensia Alcantara had nothing to do with his death. If anything, Kevin Samuels got too excited for the moment, and his body needed more rest from all the live streaming. But her beauty, the promise of sex, and whatever exchange of resources between Samuels and Alcantara for sex did not help, considering everything I mentioned earlier. But she doesn't deserve all the accusations because it's a serious thing to accuse someone of taking another person's life. And this is what happened when a bunch of lazy degenerates on YouTube rush to make content without giving the dilemma careful attention. After watching this critical analysis of Kevin Samuels' doctrine, omissions, and ultimately his death, it's a fact that this man was in open rebellion against the Most High, and his name is not written in the Lamb's Book of Life, and there's no resting in peace for him.
I'm going to hell. Y'all gonna join me. Let me know how much you cost so we can go ahead and get to the set.
See, you got to be able to touch the dark side and walk the light path.
No.